Morning. Good morning, everyone, from wherever you're watching me from. It's morning here in the Netherlands. Let me know what time is it there. All right. Welcome to my lecture this morning. We want to continue from our last lecture where we talked about fridge facts, food spoilage, leftover foods. I talked about the fact that a lot of people don't want to cook every day. You want to cook in bulk, you want to store some of your food in the fridge, and you want to know how long your food can stay. Please, if you have not watched the last live lecture, please go and watch it. In fact, go and watch the last two live series. They have been on food spoilage, and I'm just building on it today. Today we want to talk about, can I really trust the sniff test? I talked about it briefly in the last class last week, the sniff test. And we are still talking about the science of food spoilage, all right? It's a lot. Food spoilage is wide, and we need to take it layer by layer. We talked about food spoilage having something to do with the smell, the texture, the tastes, the aroma, even the color, before we even talk about the safety. Food spoilage affects the taste, it affects the color, it affects the texture, it affects the smell, it affects the safety of food. So, can we really trust the sniff test? When we talk about the sniff test, we are delving towards the smell of the food, all right? But I have to let you know that food spoilage is beyond only the smell. Texture can change, color can change, taste can change. And we need to understand the science of food spoilage so we don't end up eating spoiled food and thinking that they are still good. Now, I don't just come with my own head knowledge. I come with facts and figures from science. Today we want to talk about the science of food. These changes that occur in food are very huge. They are very huge. There are some changes that happen in your food that you store, your leftover food, that you cannot even see with your eyes. You cannot even perceive it. And that is why we want to talk about this. Can I trust the sniff test? Welcome, everybody. Can I trust the sniff test when it comes to my leftover food and how they are suitable even after some days? In the general talk, when we talked last week about, leftover food and how long they should be in your fridge, we say the average time should be 3 to 4 days, all right? But today we want to delve deep. There are some food that the sniff test can work for, all right? And there are some food that the sniff test cannot work for. I remember last week giving examples from the milk family, from the meat family, from the pasta family, and the like. Today, again, we are going to come down to all those little specifics, all right, and what science have to say about that. When the sniff test might work, there are some food groups that the sniff test can work to detect food spoilage. For example, when you keep your milk, you don't want to be shopping for milk every day. You don't want to be shopping for meat every day. Sniff test can work for rotten meat. It can work for sour milk. It can work for rancid fat. All right. So let us work based on specifics now. When we talk about milk, sniff test can work for that. When your milk has gone sour, you can perceive it and say, oh no, I cannot take this milk anymore. You can perceive it and you can detect that there is a spoilage bacteria working inside this food. Remember, when it comes to food spoilage, it's not only bacteria that works towards making your food spoil. We have yeast, we have fungi, we have, all other forms of organisms that are working in your food. So, but for milk, meat, and fat, we have spoilage organisms that can be detected by the sniff test. Also for rotten meat, we have spoilage bacteria like Pseudomonas. They produce what we call sulfur compounds, and this one you can perceive it. And that's why when your milk or your meat is, becoming unsuitable for consumption, you can actually do the sniff test and sniff it. And then you say, no, this is rotten, this meat is rotten, this milk has gone sour. Also, your fat. Oxidized fat can smell musty or paint-like. That is what science have to say. Your oxidized fat, for example, when you have kept your hull for so long or your fatty food for so long, you can actually perceive that there is something wrong. And mostly for is oxidation. We don't only have biological kind of spoilage, we also have chemical kind of spoilage. All right, we don't only have microbial kind of spoilage, we also have oxidation occurring inside your food, especially your fatty food, and you can actually perceive it. You can use the sniff test. Welcome everybody, thank you for joining my live. Please do well to like, comment, and share this video because it's very informative for you. All right, so you can actually do the sniff test for some food and you can detect spoilage on your leftovers. But in some cases, smell cannot be the useful indicator. Listen to this. In some cases, smell, the sniff test, cannot be a useful indicator that the food has passed its prime. I have talked about best before, all those dates that they put on your food. Please go and watch the several lives that I've had on this page. I have had several lives explaining what your due date means on your product. I've explained the fridge facts. I've explained should you wash your chicken before cooking and the implication, all right, of doing that. So please go and watch the previous live so that you can build on it on this. Now, we've talked about when the sniff tests can work to detect food spoilage. It can work in sour milk, it can work in rotten meat, it can work in rancid fat, but where can you not rely on the sniff test? That is what I want to talk about now. Please, I want you to listen attentively. There are some cases that you cannot rely on the sniff test. Now, I'm going to tell you what science has to say. In this category, you cannot rely. Now, number one, pathogenic bacteria do not always smell. Listen to it again. Pathogenic bacteria do not always smell. Dangerous bacteria like Salmonella, E. coli, and Listeria do not cause off smells, even in high numbers. Did you hear that? We are talking about the science of food spoilage, your leftover food. What can happen? Pathogenic bacteria do not always smell. The dangerous ones like your Salmonella, which is common in food, your E. coli, your Listeria, they do not usually smell, even when their numbers are already large in the food. Food can look and smell perfectly fine, but still cause serious illness. I'm not saying this from my head, so you don't say, oh, she's just saying nonsense. No, I am saying this based on scientific research that's been carried out. Food can still look and smell perfectly fine, but still cause serious illness because many of those pathogenic organisms, they do not cause off smell, all right? Another reason why you cannot always rely on sniff tests is that, number two, cold doesn't kill. The coldness of your fridge only slow down organisms, only slow down their activity of those organisms. They do not kill the organisms, but they slow down their activity. Many of you put already contaminated food in your fridge and you think that the food is going to kill all the organisms. No, it can only slow down their activity. Cold does not kill them, it only slows down. So refrigeration only slows down microbial growth, it doesn't stop it. So please put that at the back of your mind. Refrigeration, putting your food in the fridge, do not kill the microorganisms. It only stops them. It doesn't stop them, sorry. It only slows down their growth. It doesn't stop their activity. It slows down. And then also, Pathogens can still multiply to dangerous level without obvious signs right inside the refrigerator. All right, so I'll repeat it again. Refrigeration do not stop microbial activity, it can only slow it down. Refrigeration does not kill microorganisms, it only slow down their activity. Number 3, the last 3 things that you should hold on to is that time is a better safety indicator. And that's why in our place of work, when we open food and we want to keep them in the freezer, we have to put the date that we open that food on it. Why are we putting that date? Because that date is very important for us than what? Than keeping it in the fridge. We want to know, when did we open this food? When it's past 3 to 4 days, we know there are high chances that this food is not safe. All right, so when you see your meat that has been open for like a week, you can already know that pathogenic organisms, salmonella, E. coli, listeria, and many of these organisms that you cannot detect with your sniff test can already be having a feast on your meat without you knowing. All right, so time is a better indicator. Science says use by date, best before date on perishables are based on microbial safety and quality studies. If food is past its use by, even if it smells fine, it might not be safe. So a lot of food that are perishable, they tell you after opening this food, eat within 2 days or eat within 3 days. Please stick by that. Don't say, oh, the food still smell nice. The food still look nice. No. Once they tell you when you open this meat, when you open this milk, please finish it up in 3 days. Please follow it strictly. Don't say this food does not smell, because I already told you that pathogenic bacteria do not smell. Cold doesn't kill them. Cold just slow down the activity. So don't say I kept it in the fridge. And then time is a better indicator of food safety. Don't say I kept it in the fridge or it doesn't smell bad. Sniff test does not work for pathogenic bacteria. It only works for some of those spoilage bacteria, but it doesn't work for pathogenic bacteria. Now, in summary, what are we trying to say? While the sniff test work for some food products, the sniff test do not work for some food products. When you leave your food, your leftover in the fridge, please note down the date and follow the use by date that the producer put on it. If the producer say consume within 3 to 4 days after opening, please do well to follow it. Now, the summary of what I'm saying is that the safety practices involve, number 1, follow use by dates. Follow the use by dates. Store food at proper temperature. Your fridge should not be more than 4 degrees Celsius, at worst 7 degrees. Reheat leftover food properly. Make sure that the temperature within that food reaches 75 degrees. When in doubt, throw the leftover food away. Don't risk your head. Don't say, oh, I think let me just eat it. No. When in doubt, throw the food away. The sniff test can sometimes be used to detect spoilage, and the sniff test do not work sometimes, but it can also be dangerous when it involves pathogenic organisms. I believe you have learned 1 or 2 things. Please, if you do not understand something, ask your specific questions or go back and rewatch this video. Please watch 2 weeks ago's lecture, watch last week's live section, and you'll be able to build on what we have learned today. Thank you very much for always joining me. Thank you for everybody that joined me live. Please do well to like, comment, and share this video. Let many other people learn the science of food spoilage. In fact, almost all of us, we have leftover food. We keep it in our fridge. Some of you that are living in countries that there is no good power system, you even leave it on the table, and you are at a risk of food safety. So please, let's do well to help other people by sharing this video. And please subscribe to this channel. I have a lot of cooking and food inspiration for you. I teach you a lot of things about, about tricks and tips in the kitchen that can help your life better. I also do some food reviews, reviewing products. Please do well to like, comment, and share. Support this page, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.